A very good evening to you all. I welcome you back to Rao Hospital's pregnancy web series. As every Saturday, we've been doing at 4 p.m. every weekend. And this time we're going to be talking about the postnatal session. For this, I'm your host, Dr. Damodar Rao, Associate Director of Rao Hospital, Coimbatore. I'm an OBGYN with a keen interest in fertility and laparoscopy. The postnatal period is the period where you've just delivered your beautiful baby and you want to be the best mother in the world. So you are so anxious and nervous about being the best that you can. So you'll have a lot of queries about, especially when it comes to breastfeeding or the healing of your wound, whether you have a normal delivery or a C-section, or about various other problems, or maybe something about abdominal pain or bleeding. So you'll have various queries during this period. And the best part or the worst part is you'll have a lot of advice from a lot of family and friends. So you should be smart in, deciding what advice to take, and always double check with your healthcare provider as to, if this advice is right or wrong. So for this, we have Dr. Suganya, who's one of our consultants at Rao Hospital. She's an OBGYN with a keen interest in fertility and high-risk pregnancy. On to you, Dr. Suganya.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. See, while most attention to pregnancy care focuses around the first 9 months of pregnancy, it's very important that the postpartum period be taken into a good consideration as well. Now that you've given birth to your child, your emotions and physically your body is changing a lot. So care needs to be given during this part of your phase in life. So I'll be talking to you about the postnatal care and some tips on how you can manage it with ease. So let me start by talking about self-care. So breast is one organ in the body that changes a lot after you deliver your baby. And a lot of people are quite concerned about the amount of milk production. They're not really sure if they're having a good established milk supply. But you should know that a proper production of milk and establishment can take anywhere between 2 to 5 days after birth. And sometimes it can happen all of a sudden, resulting in engorgement. So engorgement is when your breast ducts get filled with milk, get stagnated, and results in swelling. So if you have any particular queries regarding how to make sure your breast doesn't get engorged, you should really consult your doctor before you leave the hospital. But using hot compresses or sometimes cold compresses can help a lot with the pain. And take a warm shower, keep your breasts clean and dry. Do not use any alcohol-based solutions over your nipples, because that again can result in a lot of drying and itching, resulting in even cracked nipples. The way your baby latches onto your breast is very important. Again, improper latching can result in cracked nipples and can result in bleeding sometimes as well. There's something called as the let down reflex or leaking. So when you feed from one breast, there is a chance that the other breast can also leak, which is completely normal. Or sometimes even when you're not breastfeeding, but you hear the baby cry or hear any baby cry, or while having an intercourse, your breast can leak, which is normal. Using breast nursing pads can be helpful in this case. If ever, sometimes a lot of patients have abdominal cramps or after pains while breastfeeding. It is basically your uterus trying to shrink back to its original size. So that is also something that you don't have to be worried about. If for some reason you choose to bottle feed, or if the doctor wants you to bottle feed due to some reason, you can always talk to your doctor regarding stopping your milk supply. But you should bear in mind that exclusive breastfeeding is always recommended until this first 6 months of age. And exclusive breastfeeding means that you're not supposed to give anything, not even water, but you can definitely give the baby the vitamin syrups, oral rehydration solution. Apart from that, do not provide any formula milk or anything semi-solid for the first 6 months of pregnancy. We already had one detailed discussion regarding the breast care in our previous session. So if you do have further queries, do log on to that previous session and have it clear. Now coming to episiotomy care. So episiotomy is a minor incision that is made in your vagina to ease the birth of your child, to widen the space so that the delivery is quite easy. So this is always stitched mostly after your delivery. Care for your episiotomy is very important because that is one place, though most of the people heal well, there are still a few people who can end up with an infection. So always once you make a bowel movement or you urinate, wash that area with soap and water and pat it dry. Also, you can use something called as a sitz bath. A sitz bath is when you take some lukewarm water in a tub, add a little bit of betadine and sit for some time, for a few minutes twice daily or maybe thrice daily as well, and then pat it dry. So wear loose underwear, nothing very tight that snugs to your episiotomy wound. And also, you should bear in mind that after the episiotomy is given to you and it's stitched, there's the chance that it can always break open if you put too much of pressure in your abdomen or your pelvic area. So, doing any strenuous activities or straining, or even if you have constipation, you try to pass out your stools in a very hard way, all these can have some effect on your episiotomy wound and can result in gaping or opening also. If you have urinary or fecal incontinence, which means involuntary passage of urine or stools, you have to talk to your doctor about it. But always doing exercise helps. And I'll be talking about the exercises in the later part of the session. Now, coming to the wound care, the cesarean wound care. This is almost equivalent to your episiotomy care. Make sure you wash the wound with soap and water once to twice daily. Keep it dry because a lot of people are under the impression that the water should not be seen on the surface of the wound. They apply oils or certain things to make sure the water doesn't enter the wound. That is not the correct way to take care of your abdominal wound. You have to keep it clean and dry and wash it with soap and water while you take a shower. Because gaping of this wound can also happen if there's an infection. And pay attention to underwear bands and avoid tight clothing. Always wearing a loose clothing which is comfortable and is breathable is advisable. Now, a lot of people ask how long it takes for the incision to completely heal. Well, it takes about a few weeks for your skin incision to heal, but completely going back to normal will take about 6 weeks. So your uterus going back to normal, your incision completely healing, your uterine incision completely healing usually takes for about 6 weeks. Now coming to something called as the early ambulation, which is very important, especially post-operatively. A lot of relatives will end up telling you take lots of rest, don't walk around, you've just had a surgery. We always recommend early ambulation or early mobilization. This is a technique where post-operatively you get up and you start doing light activities like even standing up, reaching for your own food, going to the toilet unattended by yourself. Recovery is always faster when you ambulate earlier. Not only that, you have a lot of other added bonuses when you ambulate early, like the blood flow increases to a great extent and you don't end up having clots informed into your system and you don't get a lot of infections. As I said, recovery is faster, you can go home faster, and you will also, the pain also eases out much faster. And not only that, getting up and moving around also relieves constipation, bloating. The gaseous distension goes away really fast. You're much comfortable than you would be when you're lying for a long time, for 3 4 days after surgery. All right. Now I'll be talking about another very very important topic, which people we always tell during our postnatal visits, but is not followed a lot. That is contraception. See, planning your pregnancies is very important for both you as well as your child. You need optimum recovery before you can completely plan for your next child. So, choosing some mode of contraception is very important. It can be an injection, a 3 monthly injection that can be taken immediately after your delivery, or it can be in the form of pills, progesterone only pills, which are low dose pills that can be even given 6 months after your delivery. You can also insert something called as a copper T, which is an intrauterine device that is inserted into your uterine cavity. there's a lot of hesitancy and taboo surrounding this copper tea because of side effects. But you should know that not many people, not many patients have these side effects. There is a very minor amount of patients that experience excessive bleeding or discomfort after a copper tea. And also, if copper tea is inserted 6 weeks after your delivery, it is the chance of expulsion is also very less. A lot of people are very comfortable, and this can be inside your system for 5 years. So even if you're planning pregnancy in between, you can always have it removed by your doctor and plan pregnancy the next month. It doesn't affect your fertility so much. And this is a great mode of contraception if you're planning contraception in between two pregnancies. And then there's tubal ligation, which is the permanent mode of sterilization. Again, a lot of people tell us, we don't want sterilization because it makes our body weak. It's a very common statement that is heard on an almost regular basis. But no, it doesn't. It is just a very small surgery that is done to tie your tubes on both sides. It can be done along with your cesarean section if you're planning to stop your fertility from there. Or if you have concerns about the growth of your baby, you can always use some other mode of contraception, then come back later after a couple of years to have it done. It can be done in a single day. It's a daycare surgery. You can go home that very evening itself and resume your normal activities soon after that. And then another permanent mode of contraception is vasectomy for the males. And regarding emergency contraception can be taken anytime after delivery. But again, the sooner the better after intercourse. And sometimes this may not work in case of very obese women. In home, you'll be asked to insert an emergency intrauterine device as well. So rather than going for these, it's always better to plan. If you're planning a good gap of a year to 2, 3 years, it's better to go for a little longer methods of contraception. And there is something about breastfeeding as contraception. Breastfeeding completely, a person who exclusively breastfeeds, and by exclusive, I mean not breastfeeding or not giving feeds in between from the bottle or giving formula feeds. In that case, definitely breastfeeding can help in inhibiting ovulation, but it is not a complete, it has a high failure rate, as in 2 people out of 100 can end up becoming pregnant. And regarding, this is about the contraception. So please talk to your doctor during your postnatal visit about what type of contraception you would like to have. Next is nutrition. Well, nutrition, you would have been eating quite healthy during pregnancy because you know that the baby is also getting the nutrients from you. But soon after delivery, we see that a lot of patients go back to not eating healthy if they were doing that previously. But you should know that it's very important to eat quite healthy during breastfeeding as well. And always don't go eat when you're stressed or anxious or tired, because those are common symptoms after delivery. Always eat when you're hungry. And having a very high fiber diet helps in relieving constipation, which is important when you have an episiotomy or a cesarean scar. And you should always have foods that are high in whole grains like oats, those brown rice, and those also have a lot of fiber. Having good quality protein like egg, fish, tofu, seafood, chicken, and lentils, legumes are also very important. Have less fatty fried snacks and go for wholesome snacks like Greek yogurt or like fruits, whole fruits as such. Also, having a food rich in iron is important. Green leafy vegetables are rich in iron, even chicken livers, all types of greens are high in iron. Also, calcium rich foods, because you would have lost a significant amount of calcium during your pregnancy as well as lactation. It's good to have dairy, meat, egg, all that. So this is about your nutrition, and water intake is also very important in correcting your constipation and also for a good established milk supply. A minimum of 3 to 4 liters is what is recommended. Though when it comes to calorie overall, you need an excess of about 500 kilocalories. So yeah, and coming to supplements, See, during delivery or a cesarean, you would have lost a lot of blood. So it is important to replenish all those red blood cells. So taking iron on an everyday basis is very important. And also calcium, because the baby would have taken calcium from your bones and your teeth and would have grown. And also the milk supply takes a lot of calcium from your body. So having calcium until you stop breastfeeding, however long it is very important. And if you've not done a vitamin D correction, and you're not someone who is outside in the sun a lot, please have that corrected as well. I'm going to talk about rest and exercise now. See, getting enough rest is very important for new mothers because this is a huge task that is imposed on you. But rest when you feel you have to rest, and move around when you feel you have to move around. Too much of rest and too much of exercise, either way, is not healthy when it comes to postpartum period. And when it comes to weight loss, you might be worried about all the weight that you gained during your pregnancy, but don't keep that as your priority when it comes to your lactation period. Weight loss will happen eventually. Just give it some time. And doing, you can start off by walking because that is a very light intensity exercise, and slowly build up. It's recommended that you do 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise, and you can split it as 30 minutes for 5 days a week, or even 10-minute sessions thrice daily for 5 times a week. Doing yoga, stretches, abdominal exercise, everything helps. You can start exercises whenever you're comfortable, but do talk to your doctor. And 6 weeks after your cesarean section might be a good time to start your exercises. Now, regarding postnatal visits, it's very important that you come and visit your doctor within a week after your delivery, because this is an individualized care that is given to both you as well as your baby. So at this time, the doctor will address your other symptoms, anything that you recently developed. And if you've had diabetes or hypertension in the past, the doctor will put you through blood pressure checks and other added investigations to see if you're carrying anything into the future. And also you can talk about your contraception as well. You'll also be asked about your general mental and physical well-being. Now, coming to emotional health, well, changes in hormonal levels, taking care of your child puts a great emotional burden on you. A lot of mothers feel very anxious, tired, restless within a few weeks after, few days after delivery. These are called as postpartum blues. A little more intense form where the mother is very, very anxious, and there are intense emotions, there is restlessness, lack of sleep, and it can last for a little longer period. And this is postpartum depression, which definitely needs to be addressed by the family. A good support by the family is very important, and a much more vigorous form where the patient becomes very agitated. She has thoughts of hurting herself or the baby or around people around. This is called postpartum psychosis that definitely requires immediate attention. So please talk to your doctor, and your doctor might put you through to an expert. So I'm going to be touching a little bit about a couple of lines about infant management. Well, always wash your hands before you handle your infant, and before leaving the hospital, learn how to bathe the infant, how to feed, how to burp, how to make sure the infant latches properly, how to cut your infant's toenails and hand nails, and also never how to handle the baby. Always handle the baby by the neck, and how to clean the umbilical cord. Do not use cow dung or other foreign substances over the stump of the umbilical cord. Now, the last one, that is the postnatal warning signs. If you ever experience any chest pain or shortness of breath or seizures or thoughts of hurting yourself or others around you, or the baby, or you have excessive bleeding in the form of clots, probably the size of an egg, or you feel the incision is draining out some pus or some fluid, the episiotomy is draining out something, you have excessive pain over the episiotomy site, excessive pain over your abdominal site, scar, swollen legs, you have fever, or you feel your breasts are enlarged, heavy, and you have a fever, please seek the help of your doctor, because it can be a short-term or even a long-term complication. And I would like to conclude by saying, be kind to yourself and move your body when it feels right, and stop when you feel it's not all right. While taking things slowly and allowing your body to take time to recover is very important. So give please seek the help of your family and friends and people who have just delivered like you. There are a lot of forums around. And if you've taken antenatal classes, you probably have friends from those antenatal classes. So that's it about postpartum hemorrhage. Happy parenting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Suganya, for that detailed talk on the postpartum period. I think we have a lot of questions coming in. Let's take them one by one. The first question is, hi ma'am, I'm in the 8th month now. Do I need to do anything to stimulate breastfeeding?
Well, if you're in your 8th month and you're concerned that you have a flat nipple or you feel the nipple is not of a proper shape, well, you can definitely seek the help of a lactational consultant much before your delivery itself. We have one experienced lactation expert, Dr. Parvati, in our hospital. You can always reach out to her. But if you feel your nipples are all right and you need some help, you can always apply a little bit of oil and gently pull your nipple, but don't overstimulate your nipple at any point.
How much weight will I drop right after delivery?
You may not completely drop all the weight, but you will definitely see a huge weight loss a week within your delivery because all that fluid, the baby's weight, and the excessive discharge, all that will kind of slowly start the edema. Everything starts going away within a week. So you can expect, let's say, if you've gained around 12 kgs, you can expect around 5 to 6 kgs weight loss in the first week, but the rest of it might be fat, another 4 or 5 kgs, which will definitely take time. So doing slow exercises, as I mentioned in the talk, will be helpful, but don't prioritize weight loss before anything. It will happen eventually. Give yourself and your body some time to recover before you can start doing high intense exercises.
I just wanted to throw in this question actually. How quick does one recover after a normal vaginal delivery, and after a C-section, when is one allowed to exercise, and what intensity of exercise?
Well, after a normal delivery, if you feel some people have a faster healing of the episiotomy scar about 2 to 3 weeks. If your doctor says yes, you can start your exercises right away. You can start with abdominal exercises and simple exercises. When it comes to cesarean, it's always better to wait a little bit more, maybe a couple of weeks. You can wait up to 6 weeks before you can completely start, and always start off with light or mild intensity exercises and gradually build it up to moderate intensity. Well, moderate intensity will be when your heart rate is up, you're sweating. That would be a moderate intensity exercises. Start off with walking, you can do yoga, stretches, but weight training is something that can happen once complete healing happens.
From when can we use the waist or hip belt? Which belt do you recommend after delivery?
Okay. There is a lack of proper research, and a lot of research is being done, but then it says that it is not of much use because you need your abdominal muscles to work. You don't need to tie them up and make them, they'll stop working if you tie them up completely. So ideal would be to not use a belt at all, but instead go ahead with abdominal exercises, crunches. So every time you get up from the bed, you can do 10 crunches. So probably even 100 times a day. That would provide you more of an abdominal strengthening rather than using belts. And also, if you've had a cesarean scar, using belt over the cesarean scar can cause a lot of irritation, which is also not recommended.
What are the precautions I should take for me and my baby during COVID, especially since apparently pregnant and breastfeeding women are not going to be given the vaccination?
Well, this is a good question. See, if ever you're COVID negative, if you do not have any symptoms of COVID, it's always better to limit visitors at home or in the hospital because you never know what anyone is carrying. So before touching the baby, make sure your visitors wash their hands, use a sanitizer, and wear a mask while touching the baby. There should be a very limited amount of people inside your house who can handle you and the baby. And even you, before you start breastfeeding, please wash your hands with soap and water, clean your breasts, and then breastfeed. If ever you're found to be COVID positive, definitely inform your pediatrician because sometimes the baby can also require a swab. And if you're developing symptoms, it's better to keep yourself isolated. There's no contraindication to breastfeeding, but if you're concerned, please talk to your doctor. Sometimes if you're quite in a severe stage and require hospitalization, you can still express the milk and give it. But handling the babies has to be done by 1 or 2 people and not by a lot of people. And before you breastfeed, it's better you change your clothes, your innerwear, wash yourself completely, wear a mask, and then breastfeed.
How long will I bleed post delivery? When will normal menstruation resume?
Uh, Immediately post delivery, you can have an amount of discharge that is called as the lochia. So this can sometimes be anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. So this is the normal discharge, the mucus, the blood, all the fluids that were collected when you were pregnant, that is just coming out little by little. And you can see it change color over time. It starts with a fresh red and slowly goes to a white. But after that, you can have your menses anytime after that, within a month after, if it's a cesarean section or if you're breastfeeding. I'm sorry. If ever you've been breastfeeding exclusively, you may not resume your menses immediately also. It can be anywhere between 6 months. If you're exclusively breastfeeding for 6 months, you can have a very varied cycle. So don't really be bothered a lot about your cycle, but you should know that you can become pregnant even after 3 weeks of your delivery. So using a contraception is very important. And regarding establishment, a lot of people resume normal menses within 4 to 6 months.
Okay. Is it true that breastfeeding provides contraception? I think if you want to talk in detail about that, you can.
Okay. Well, exclusive breastfeeding, as I mentioned, is when you're strictly giving only from your breast, not even a pumped milk or from the bottle. So this will be when, for example, you feed every fourth hourly in the morning and every sixth hourly at night, you establish a good hormonal supplies which can inhibit ovulation. So this is called as the LAM method or the lactational amenorrhea method. But as I said, if ever, even if you miss a couple of days in between, there is still a chance that you can have that one ovulation in between and still become pregnant. So there are studies that have told that in patients who have been using the LAM method for 6 months, 2 out of 100 people still become positive. So if you're unless you're very sure about using the method correctly without skipping any feeds in between, I think you should go ahead with some other kind of contraception.
This is another probably not common, but some of them do develop it. Cracked nipples during breastfeeding. What advice would you give to such mothers?
Well, cracked nipples, feeding the infant can sometimes suck very vigorously from the nipple, so that can further lead to cracking. So we always tell applying some lanolin, some ointment over the nipple in between feeds and wiping it off before feeds can help. But if it's a little severe form where you have bleeding, it's advisable to give it some time to heal. You can use nipple shields while breastfeeding the baby. The baby eventually learns the hang of it. So don't be worried about using a nipple shield. It's not like an artificial feed. But eventually, once your nipple heals, you should be safe to breastfeed your baby directly from your breasts.
Okay. This is another question that's just come in. I just got discharged from the hospital yesterday and I still have swelling of the feet. Is it normal or do I wait or when do I report to the hospital?
Hospital. Well, swelling of the feet is very normal in pregnancy as well as immediately post delivery. It's all that fluid that is collected, and there is a shift of fluid that happens even during the process of delivery. So don't really be worried if both of your feet are swelling. You don't experience any pain, or while walking. That if you do, if it's in both feet, don't really worry. But if you have a lot of pain in one feet, there's swelling, there's tenderness, please come to the doctor. You can wait for up to 6 weeks for it to settle down. But again, during your postnatal visit, your doctor will still be concerned about your BP status. So if everything is all good, I don't think you should be worried about the swelling of feet.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll stop taking questions now. And thank you, Dr. Suganya, for this wonderful session. I think you've explained everything beautifully and taken the questions and answered everything very well. So yeah, I think that's it for today. And we'll come back in a week, I think coming Saturday, same time at 4 p.m. And see you all then. Thank you, Vanam.
Thank you.